This tutorial will cover the basic functions and workflow of EMG Plus in Sierra 4.1. EMG Plus can be accessed through the navigator, either by choosing a study that has muscles built into it. Choosing this study would add all of these muscles to your study window, or you can choose the muscle tab and filter through the muscle list using the anatomical figure, and then double click on the muscle of interest. Make sure you have EMG Plus selected as the test. Data will begin acquiring once you select the muscle. You can push run stop on the base unit to pause and continue acquiring data. During acquisition, you'll see data acquiring in the buffer window down below. The buffer is showing you your last 60 seconds of EMG data. This can be increased in settings up to 10 minutes. At any point during the exam, you can pause acquisition and you can review through the buffer. You can do this by dragging with the mouse in the gray area below, or you can use the yellow knob to review back through the buffer of EMG data. To play back a section, you can just push down the yellow knob or hit play in the buffer toolbar. If you want to zoom in on a section, you can just click and drag in the buffer and put a box around the section that you want to zoom in on. That'll zoom that section in, and now it'll just play through that one section of data. To zoom back out, click on this icon here, and that'll zoom back out to your full buffer. To store that buffer, you can just push store, and that'll store the entire buffer. If I just want to store a section of the buffer, I can zoom in on that section and then store, either pushing store in the base unit or pushing this disk here. If I want to store a snapshot of the EMG trace in my report, I can just find the trace of interest and then click on the snapshot icon. Pushing run stop will start acquiring data again. You'll notice a checkbox next to the muscle that I've been testing. The checkbox means that this muscle has been added to the scoring table. If you have muscles in a study, they won't be checked until you either click on them with your mouse or you select the muscle with your purple knob and then push down the purple knob to add it to your scoring table. You'll notice the purple knob is currently in muscle select position. If I go into muscle scoring or long press the purple knob, that will open up my scoring window and allow me to use the purple knob to score a muscle. Holding down the purple knob again, or pushing F6 will close the muscle scoring window. The F keys at the bottom of the screen correspond with the F keys on the base unit. There are 4 modes in EMG Plus: spontaneous, volitional, auto-mop, and IPA. In this video, we'll be covering spontaneous and volitional mode. Each mode has 2 views. You'll notice at the top of the screen there's a view icon. There's also a view button on the base unit. Pushing the view button or the icon will toggle between the 2 views. So for spontaneous mode, our defaults have a main view with live EMG Plus and a study window. And if you push view, the second view has a live EMG Plus window, as well as a triggered traces window and a trigger enabled. The trigger is actually enabled as an auto trigger, so it's automatically adjusting to trigger on the largest unit firing. At any point you can toggle back and forth between those 2 views. The 2 views can be set up with different windows and workspaces, or they can be set up the same but with just different gains and sweeps in your trace window. The knob functions can be found at the bottom of the screen. You'll notice when you're running live, currently the purple and blue knob have functions. You can get to those functions, the second function, by pushing down the knob. So the blue knob is gain, and then you push the knob down, and that will allow you to change the sweep. When you push stop, the yellow knob appears, and it has a function to review or play back your buffer. We'll now continue to volitional mode. Pushing F2 will take you to volitional mode. Volitional mode can be set with a different gain and sweep. You'll see the gain and sweep settings here. Again, you can change those with the blue knob. You can also change the default settings to whatever you prefer. You can also change settings with your mouse just by pointing at it and either clicking or scrolling your mouse wheel. That will change any of the settings that you see here on the screen. In volitional mode, this mode is really designed for looking at and qualifying and quantifying motor units. So here we have a auto trigger, just like we had in the spontaneous view 2. And here auto trigger is triggering on the biggest motor unit firing. You'll notice it's automatically adjusting to capture the largest motor unit. At any point you can use the yellow knob to manually adjust that trigger. As soon as you start using the yellow knob to turn the trigger during acquisition, you have control over it. To make it go back into auto trigger mode, just pause and then start recording again. So run stop, and then the trigger will start auto adjusting. To turn off the trigger, you can just click in this top left corner and either turn it off or select a different type of trigger. In volitional mode, on the right hand side of the screen, you'll notice an averaged MUP window and a couple other windows tabbed behind it. The averaged MUP window allows you to see the data that's crossing the trigger line. The top trace is going to show you the last trace that crossed the trigger line, and then the following traces are showing you the previous traces or units that cross the trigger line. You can click this button to view those traces either in a raster or overlay mode, whichever you prefer. When you're in a raster mode, we can pause here. You'll notice that this top one, as soon as I pause, this is now the average of the traces below. And so the white traces are the inputs to this average. Currently it's set up to average the 8 best units, and so it's a qualitative average of the 8 best, and that's why these 8 are highlighted in white. And as soon as you start acquiring data again, now we're just seeing the live last trace, and then when we pause, we're actually seeing an averaged motor unit based on the input traces below. During acquisition, as well as when you're paused, you can see results. So here we can see an amplitude, duration, and rise time of the live data while you're acquiring it. If the results are colored green or red, that's because there may be reference limits entered for those results, and it's showing you that the numbers are within reference limits. Please take note that these results are based on the baseline activity and other factors, so you want to make sure you double check the cursors and don't just always go off what the numbers here show. If you have a noisy baseline, sometimes that can throw off the duration markers, and the amplitude markers are really just based on the quality of the data collected. You can click on any of these and change what results are visible. So you can see up to 3 results, and you can choose which results just by clicking on the result and picking something else. To save a motor unit along with its corresponding results, you can just click the plus icon, and that will save that unit. So now I've saved 2 units for this muscle, and I've saved them under volitional mode. You can also manually save units that aren't triggered. We can just move the trigger line off, and here we can see this unit we've already saved because it was triggered. If I want to save any of these units, I can just click on it with my mouse, or I can click and drag and then release, and then if I want to keep it, I just click that plus icon that appears next to it. If I don't click that and I move my mouse away, it just disappears. So if I want to save this, you'll notice when I save that, it saves all the other MUPs with similar morphologies. You'll see across my buffer all the different MUPs that it saved, the green one and the red one. So this is kind of how you can manually collect motor units if you want to. You can look at these in a MUP overview table that I will show you later. We'll now go over the next tab in volitional mode, which is stability. So what stability allows you to do is it allows you to see the motor unit in different filters. So we're actually looking at the same motor unit filters that are more common in single fiber EMG, so 10 kilohertz and 1 kilohertz filters. And when you're in that filter, you can start seeing different components of the motor unit and start comparing stability, and we even have markers that you can adjust, and you can see the live stability of that motor unit up in the top left corner of the window. The third tab on the right side of the screen brings me to our firing rate analysis window. The firing rate analysis window is really helpful when you're looking at recruitment of motor units. And what you can do is while you're acquiring data, let's just start over here. At any point you can turn on firing rate analysis, and it starts tracking the MUP train and starts plotting the firing rate of those motor units. So I'll let it run here for a second, and I'll pause it and explain what it's doing. So what was happening here is initially, if we go back here, we were seeing a single motor unit firing. And then as the patient increased force, we'll start back here. So here we see a single motor unit firing. And as the patient increased force, the firing rate increased. So the y-axis here is the firing rate. So this is the patient increasing force. You see the firing rate went all the way up to almost 13 and a half, before a second motor unit came in to help it out. And so this is a nice way to quantify the firing rate of different motor units in your MUP train. This does a pretty good job of looking at up to about 4 or 5 motor units firing simultaneously. If there's more baseline activity than that, then this tool is going to have a hard time distinguishing different motor units. But it can tell you the firing rate of each individual motor unit, and you can also have it set up to show recruitment ratio as well. To learn more about any of these utilities, you can go to Help and Help Topics. There's a cloud version or a local installed version. And you can just search for firing rate analysis or any of these options to learn more about how to use them and how to set them up. There are 2 views in volitional mode, just like spontaneous mode. So you can toggle between the 2 views with the view button on the base unit or the icon on your screen. And the second view can be set up to your liking. There's another video that shows how to set up and dock these windows in different positions and how to hide and tab different windows. But in view 2 in our defaults, we have a few different ways of looking at the data. You can see a MUP overview table to see all the MUPs that you've saved. You can hover over a MUP and delete it. You can adjust cursors from here. There's also a firing rate analysis window in view 2 as well. And down below you can see the result table of the MUPs and then the firing rate results. And then just hit the view button or the icon to switch back to view 1. To score this muscle and continue to the next muscle, you can push F6 muscle scoring, and then you can just use your mouse, or you can use the purple knob. When the muscle scoring window is open, the purple knob allows you to score things just by turning the knob and then clicking and selecting the selection. You can also use your mouse to score, or you can use the input table down below to score. F6 again will close the scoring table, and then you can select the next muscle to examine. To select the next muscle, either click it with your mouse or use the purple knob to select. Once you choose the next muscle that you want to examine, whether it's from the navigator or from the study window, it'll automatically start acquiring data again in spontaneous mode, as it assumes you want to start looking at insertional activity and spontaneous activity. This has been a tutorial about the basic functions and workflow of EMG Plus. In both spontaneous and volitional mode. Refer to the help topics or other videos to learn more about EMG Plus.